It's hard to deny how convenient Steam is for all things concerning PC gaming, be it its frequent sales, its robust community features, or the huge catalogue of games available. If you are gaming on your PC, you are most likely using it. But for as wonderful as it might be, it's definitely not without its shortcomings, because when it comes to VNs, it can be a rather frustrating platform. There have been so many high quality titles that have been straight up banned from releasing there for no apparent reason. To be honest, it sometimes feels like whoever is in charge of curating new releases holds some sort of personal grudge against visual novels. But fear not, because we have gathered a list of 14 great PC VNs that are available to purchase in English, but just not on Steam. This video was written by the main man, that is Mirin. Go follow him on Twitter with the links in the description. And also, if you're new, hit that subscribe button. It will be the best thing you do today, I promise. Starting with Kara no Shoujo 2, and this one is a bit of an odd one because you can actually buy its prequel on Steam just fine, but the sequel, nah. I guess that was asking for too much, which is a big shame because this one is an absolutely fantastic follow-up to the original. Just like that one, Kara no Shoujo 2 is a detective murder mystery, but this time it's more or less split into two main episodes, one taking place in a rural village during the pre-war era of Japan, and the other in the late 1950s. The story features two protagonists, Masaki Tamayoki, who takes on the main role during the first chapter, and Tokisaki Reiji, the main protagonist from the original game. Both of whom will have to work together to solve a series of murders happening, and the chemistry between these two characters is very enjoyable, not to mention the simply outstanding OST and the atmosphere it creates. This is definitely a must-play title for any visual novel fan wanting a well-constructed noir story. You can get this one over at Manga Gamer's website. In a similar fashion, Evenicle 2 is another title whose prequel is already available on Steam, but the sequel is not. This one stings a bit harder since it was Alicesoft themselves who localized this release, and on top of that the game's demo was accepted on Steam without much trouble. Not the main game though, who knows why. Nonsensical policies aside, Evenicle 2 is yet another mix between JRPG and visual novel, with a premise as ridiculous as its prequel. This time you play as a young doctor with the ability to heal a disease that's been tormenting the world, and the only way to cure it is by administering a special drug that only he, or more precisely his own body, carries. As for how he administers it, well, it is an eroge. I don't think a detailed explanation is really needed here. This title is available on quite a few websites such as Manga Gamer, Just USA, and even Good Old Games. Keeping it with the same developer, Dohna Dohna is one of Alicesoft's latest games. It's an extremely vibrant and stylish mix between visual novel and dungeon crawler, with its gameplay even being somewhat similar to Darkest Dungeon. Here you have a group of rebellious punks trying to overthrow a corporation that's ruling the city of Asugi with an iron fist, and you do so by raiding their facilities, capturing innocent women, and forcing them to sell their bodies. Yeah, nobody said this one was going to be a light-hearted story, but despite these dark themes, it still manages to be a really fun time with Alicesoft's characteristic sense of humor, great characters, and a banging soundtrack that will leave you helplessly bopping to the music, all the while abducting and pimping innocent girls. You'll find this one over at Joran. No, not Jordan, Joran. Please don't accuse me of, pimping young girls. But if you're looking for something older, we can recommend Crescendo, a visual novel originally released back in 2001 and officially localized into English only 2 years later. This one is leaning more towards the nakige genre, with a plot that deals with themes such as depression and grief. It's overall a very bittersweet tale with a down-to-earth and sincere approach to its plot. It also has a very unique ragtime-influenced soundtrack, which is not something you see that often in VNs. This one is available on Just USA. Another slightly older visual novel, or in this case novels, as there's actually 3 of them, are the Moero downhill night games. These are moege with a night racing theme to them. Kind of like if someone took Initial D and turned it into a visual novel with cute anime babes. Okay, we're gonna be honest here, we don't know much about these ones, but the premise itself is so absurd they are surely worth a go. You can find these at Just USA's website. Keeping it retro, Deus Machina Demonbane is one of Nitro Plus's better-known action-focused visual novels. The game stars Daijudi Koro as its protagonist, a detective that's struggling to make ends meet, until one day he meets Al-Azif, a grimoire taking the appearance of a young girl. It's a story with some eldritch horror elements to it, so if you're a fan of Lovecraftian-themed plots, this might be one that you're looking for. This too is available on Just USA. But of course, if we're talking about Nitro Plus, one simply cannot ignore their magnum opus, Full Metal Daemon Muramasa. It's an utter travesty that this game's release was denied on Steam. This is one of the highest rated visual novels ever to exist, one that knows how to depict human conflict in an incredibly engrossing manner. It explores themes such as war, individualism, and true morals of human nature, all the while having an action-filled plot with quite a lot of humor to boot. Definitely a must-read for any visual novel fan. You can purchase this on Just or GOG. Marshmallow All the Way Home is a romantic comedy visual novel made by Marmalade, who are known for having extremely high quality H content while still delivering a solid enough narrative. This one is no exception, with its common roots being highly praised among fans of Moero. It's overall a really wholesome experience, boasting great comedy and really high production values, a story as sweet as its name implies. This one can also be bought over at Joran, not Jordan, Joran. DC de Capo is an old-school visual novel developed by Circus, translated and published in the West by Manga Gamer. It's the first entry from the series that's still going on to this day. In fact, you might get slightly dizzy if you look it up on VNDB with all its countless sequels and fan discs. As for the game, in some ways, it might be slightly outdated by today's standards, but that's also part of its charm. We can recommend this one to those who want to better understand the roots of the genre. You can find it on Manga Gamer's website. If you have been following the VN scene closely, you might be familiar with a game called Musicius by Overdrive. However, that one wasn't the first time that the developer made a musical themed visual novel. As before, they also made Kira Kira and DearDrops. Both of them are fairly light-hearted stories while having some drama to them. Out of the two, Kira Kira gets a bit darker at points, but both of them have enough comedy to balance things out. If you're looking for a visual novel that delves into the music industry, make sure to check them out. These are also available on Manga Gamer's website. And to close this list, we picked the last major VN to receive the Steam ban hammer, Chaos Head Noah. At the time of writing this, it isn't 100% officially confirmed, but unfortunately everything seems to indicate that it is true. This one is probably the most shocking out of all the ones we've listed so far. Evenicle 2, sure, is a fairly risque title. Crescendo Shoujo 2 and Muramasa, kinda BS, but those stories do get quite dark at times. But Chaos Head Noah, the first entry in the extremely well-known science adventure games, a series whose entries have all been accepted on Steam, and now this is getting banned? Absolute complete bollocks. There's not even any explicit scenes in it, and to top it off, this version was already slightly censored compared to the original 360 release. What are you smoking, Steam? Also, let me just remind you that they accepted a game called Sex with Hitler. Yeah, that's fine, of course. It is still perfectly possible that this decision might be revoked, considering that out of all the VN publishers, Spike Chunsoft perhaps has the authority to have some say in it. Fingers crossed those knobs over at Steam give it a second chance. Hopefully they have some free time between accepting all that garbage shovelware onto their storefront. And that's it for this video. As you can see, Steam is definitely not the way to go if you want to fully support this industry. It honestly feels like they are almost actively boycotting it. So if having every game over there isn't one of your top priorities, we strongly suggest to you to buy your VNs on other websites like Manga Gamer, Just USA, or even Good Old Games. And besides, most of them offer those games completely DRM free too. Now, we are aware that there's quite a few VNs we didn't mention, although to be honest, if we were to list all of them, we'd be here all day. So let us know in the comments which ones you feel deserve some love and attention. Maybe we can put them in the sequel to this video. Have a good one.